You know, it's a little hard to come on after, I missed the morning session because I was unwell, but it's hard to come on after such incredible stories, such incredible women, and one of the things that struck me was the similarities in all our lives. I mean, there were a billion times I listened to Sangeeta and I thought, yes, I know what that's about. I've had parents who've been unwell, I've been a caregiver. I listened to Neeti and this, ये आपका हॉबी है लेकिन सचमुच में आप क्या करते हैं सिंगर हैं लेकिन क्या कर all of that stuff from you're a singer at a party, please sing us a song, and then people really take offense if you don't, but everything. But I realized that we're all the same, and this is something that seems to come to me as a repeat motif, whether it's in the theme of the Sufi Gospel Project or anything that I do. I find we really are, once you peel off the labels and you peel off the shells, we are all the same. I have written down a talk that I can share with you because I was so sick this morning. I thought I was going to get on stage and forget everything. So forgive me for reading, but I am going to start the way I wrote. So essentially, the next time the GPS on your phone tells you to take a right, take a left. Do it. Even if everything tells you to take that right, take the left, including that annoying nasal voice on the GPS. Please just do it. You will get a little lost, but chances are you'll find something you didn't know existed, something really special. And that's what my roadmap for my life has been. Instead, we choose to listen to the world. We worry about what will they say, how will they react, and oh my God, what if they don't approve? We create the feelings of self-doubt, feelings that paralyze us and force us to stay in our safe zone, our comfort zone. We truly forget, and I will say we have one life. We truly forget we have one life. And this moment in this day is never going to come again in this life. And if we ruin that moment by being afraid, by being worried, then really what have we achieved? Sometimes the first step to achieving your dream is saying it out loud. 7 years ago, and only 7 years ago, most people believe that I've been a musician my whole life. Yes, I learned when I was young, but only 7 years ago, I said it out loud. I said, I am a musician. And I'm also not technologically savvy, so when Sari said digital world, I thought, oh my God, I don't make the digital world, I only know how to sing. But I said it out loud. And it was that saying out loud, that action, that changed my life. And today I can finally say, I am home. I quit everything to follow my dream. I was in advertising too. Strangely enough, I had been to the College of Art. I had trained to be a graphic designer. It was a job I loved and I was doing really well at. I joined contract advertising as a graphic designer. But I wanted to be at the beginning of the ideation process. Unfortunately, in the time that I joined in those days, and I'm very old, trust me, art directors didn't get to be at the beginning of an ideation process. They just executed ideas that copywriters came up with really bad headlines. So I talked to my boss, because I was good at convincing people. I said, let me write my own ads. He was kind, you know. He was a Bengali and they're a little bit, even if I'm stereotyping here, they're willing to take risks. Huh? So the other people in the agency were totally confused because they were like, is she a copywriter or is she an art director? How can she be both? People don't like it when they can't slot you into little boxes, when they can't label you, when they can't categorize you, when they can't see, say, man, woman, straight, gay, writer, art director, this, that, because it makes them feel uncomfortable. I'm going to keep doing this late if you don't mind. Anyway, I finally, after doing all of this, multitasking, I decided one day to quit. I surprised everyone, including myself. I had been studying music while I was working in advertising, but the ridiculously long hours and my serious commitment to anything that I do, I love what I do. Whether I'm in anything, I will do it with all of my being. So it was hard to have two beings also in some ways. I didn't have enough hours in the day. So I decided that I was going to quit. And Sangeeta, incidentally, NIT was one of the clients that I did the creatives for. I never had to do the annual report, though I always stopped my boss, I think, to letting me get one of the other flunkies to do it. Anyway, so I've been thinking of quitting for a while, but it was really one moment, and it was at the turn of the millennium. It wasn't meant to be dramatic. Everyone was saying, what are you doing for the millennium? Are you going to Goa? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? I'm like, I'm doing nothing. It's just another year. And it was strange. It was December 31st, I was sitting at my computer, I was working on an ad, and I thought, you know what? Now, just jump off the deep end and stop it. Don't worry about thinking you have one life. I don't want to look back when I'm 70 and assuming I'll reach 70 and say, I wish. I am not going to be that person. And initially, when I thought I would take 3 months off, I still had a little safety net in my head, but I never looked back. And it's not like it was a piece of cake when I quit. As soon as I quit to study music, I rang up my guru, Shubhaji, and I said, Shubhaji, I've quit. She was thrilled. And for 1 year, I lost my voice. I got laryngitis. I sounded much worse than I do today. I didn't have a voice. I got laryngitis, which was teamed with pharyngitis. But I said, you know what, I'll do something else while I wait for my voice to come back. I worked in television, I hosted travel shows, I got to travel around India, which is something I perhaps may not have chosen to do on my own, and it was the best thing that happened. I learned so much. And I did all of this till I finally, sorry, I have to find my papers. I did all of this till I decided, till my voice got better. So I started learning that properly with Shubhaji, and I traveled with her, and it all was going really well. Till 3 years after I quit, my mother was detected with stage 4 cancer, something I find hard to talk about even now. She was my best friend, my backbone, my strength. My life, like, literally fell apart. She was the strongest woman I know. The doctor told her she had 4 months to live. She decided that she was going to prove the doctor wrong, and she did. She proved. And I think the young boy spoke about Parkinson's. She proved, and you talked about the internet. And that was, yes, that was such a horrible thing. We all went through it. But my mother, in spite of all of that, proved that she was not a statistic, but she was an individual. And she was going to be that individual. And I think that really rang true for me, that realizing that you are an individual. You're not what someone tells you you are or what you can be. So after a year of being with my mother through the radiation, the chemotherapy, and alternative medicine, I felt like I needed a vent, but I couldn't sing. My heart was so broken, I just couldn't sing. So I woke up and I said, you know what, I'm going to do theatre. I rang a friend. I said, he was a screenwriter and I knew that, and I said, is there a play that I can come for an audition for? And he said, you know, I'll keep you posted. And 2 weeks later he called me, he said, there's this play, I'll go for the audition. I gave a really bad audition. I'd never acted in my life. I mean, school plays where you're acting like a cow or an old lady doesn't really count. And you know, you're sort of delivering your dialogues like you belong to the British Raj because we are all taught to speak like this. So that doesn't count. I went for real theatre. And he said, you know, yeah, we'll let you know and everything. A few days later, I get a call saying you've got the lead role. And I thought, wow, okay. Another few days later, I get invited to audition for a Bollywood musical. I am not a big fan of anything Bollywood, okay? To me, India is far richer than just Bollywood. I like the music that comes out of Bollywood, yes, but I'm angry with the fact that people don't see all the beauty that there is around in the traditional and the folk arts. So I thought, nah, I'm not going to do a Bollywood musical. But then I said, let me step out of my comfort zone. I went. My name was Radha. I was in love with Rahim. I was sold to a producer, every cliche. But you know, it was one of the best experiences of my life. We traveled around the world with that musical. We went to the UK, we went to the US, we went to Dublin, went to Singapore. I went with a bunch of strangers I may never have chosen to be friends with. But when we came back, we were thick as thieves, and I learned so much about myself. I learned just that I could go out and not be anyone's daughter, anyone's sister, anyone's wife, anyone's anything, anyone's friend even. I was just a stranger in a city, and it was an incredible, incredible feeling. So when I came back, I decided I wanted to do more theatre, and I gave music a break. And then I met one of my greatest gurus, my theatre director, Amalalana. And she taught me, she healed me through theatre. She taught me one of the most important and valuable lessons of my life. She taught me that as long as there is truth in a moment, there will be beauty. Like I said, I was fortunate enough to learn classical music from people anyone would have given their right arm to learn from. I learned from Shobha Mutkal, I learned from Sarathi Chatterjee. But I think the reason, and I realized this then, the reason I was not focusing on the music or I was not taking it seriously is because I really wanted to have something to say through the music. Something I needed to say. My story to tell. My truth. Shobhaji told me, she said, to be able to sing, you have to have lived. And I didn't understand it then, but I do now. I have lived through the 84 riots, where we were targeted only, in fact, because we belong to the Sikh religion. I have lived through the violence, the fear, the hatred, the not understanding why we were made to feel different just because we were called Sikh. I mean, I was an Indian as far as I knew. I have lived through the tsunami where my husband and I were underwater in Sri Lanka, and we were holding on to a pillar for dear life for what felt like eternity. And at the same time, while we were wondering whether we were going to make it alive, we were watching people get washed away. And then also, I remember listening to an inner voice. I asked a voice, and I believe it to be God. I asked, will we be okay? And I heard in the clearest possible way, as long as you hold on, you will be fine. I have lived through the miracle of my father surviving such a serious illness where every organ was failing. The doctors had given up. He was in intensive cardiac care unit for 6 months. I stopped going to college. But I had such a firm belief that he would be okay, and with him I knew. And at the same time, I have lived through the hardest thing of it all. I've lived through losing both my parents far too early. My mother lived for 8 years. And I watched her blend the many voices of faith to try and create one voice. A universal voice of faith, which I think is so much more relevant in the socio-political climate that we live in. It is an attempt to break down the walls that separate us, removing the labels that people use to create distinctions. Like I said, Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Parsi, man, woman, straight, gay, animal. I mean, these are just labels. We're all living beings and we have as much of a right to be here and to have our own beliefs as anyone. The Sufi Gospel Project aims to question our differences, but through them find our similarities. It's about realizing that each of us has our own truth, but that each truth is just as valid. And if perhaps we would pause and listen carefully, we might realize that we are all saying the same thing. Even though the idea of this music had been germinating for a while, it took shape. Now it's been 4 years. I was asked to sing gospel at the dargah of the Sufi saint Inayat Khan Nizamuddin. As it is, I'd confused the hell out of the label walas because I belong to the Sikh religion. I was singing what everyone called Christian bhajans. And they were just like, lekin aap to Sikh hain, aap Christian bhajans kyun gaate hain? And you know, my answer to each of them was the same. It's because God has no religion and religion is not God, so I should be allowed to call out to him or her in whichever manner, in whichever language feels right for me. So when I got invited to the dargah of Sufi Inayat Khan, which was a seemingly Islamic space, I thought, you know, I'm definitely being told something and I need to do something that's befitting of this opportunity. Sikh girl singing Christian bhajans gets to an Islamic space. There's a lot going on that I need to open my ears and listen to what I am being guided towards. So that's what we did with the project. I took resonances from everywhere. I combined poetry, prayer and music from different religions, different languages, different genres even. I decided that, you know what, to hell with the traditionalists. They're going to hate me, but I'm going to do this. I'm going to take a risk because it has to be about my understanding of Sufism. Sufism means an acceptance of all humanity, and if that's what it means, then I should accept it in its very, very many colors, in every language, in every form, in everything. Gospel means the truth. And the more I looked, the more I found resonances of this truth of universal acceptance everywhere. I found them in voices, in the old, in the new, in the ancient, in the contemporary, in a conversation I might have with a friend, in bhakti, in a Sufi couplet, in a verse that Rabia wrote, in John Lennon's Imagine. To my mind, that's the most beautiful Sufi song, and I include it in my Sufi concerts, ever written in Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah. My mother wrote a beautiful couplet which I found a few days before I ever debuted the project for the first time. And it was weird because it felt like all my life she had been bringing me here. She wrote, if my Guru is standing beside me, and Gobind too is by my side, if Allah too is present here, then whose child am I? Guru mere saath khade hain, Gobind yahi to hai, Allah bhi maujood hai yahan, to kaun kahan se hai? So the Sufi Gospel Project, we presented the first time we ever presented. We got a standing ovation. I was so scared. She wasn't in the audience, but somebody came up to me. We had a standing ovation, and The audience went absolutely quiet, and it was really like it was orchestrated by God, because one old lady walked up to the front of India Habitat Center, as it was, well, at Stein. In fact, when I called Habitat and I asked for an auditorium, I said, can I have the basement theatre? And they said, no, Sonam, we're giving you the Habitat Stein. And I said, no, I don't want 500 people, I'm trying something new. They said, no, the last time you had a jazz concert. So after, I hadn't told you this, when I started learning classical music, my first concert ever was jazz. I hadn't studied jazz, I just heard it. But I wanted to do, I felt I want to do what I want to do. It's my life. I'm going to come alone, I leave alone. I have to be answerable only to myself. You were talking of approval. You don't need validation from outside. The only person that needs to validate you is you, as long as it rings true. And that's why I come back to the word truth. As long as it rings true in your heart, you know it to be right. So that lady, as I said, there was a standing ovation. It was like a Moses moment. The audience parted. This lady came forward and she said, my child, straight from your lips to God's heart. And I started to cry because I thought, my mother has heard me. But that's what the music was about. It is about breaking preconceived notions of what can or what should be. We take an Abide With Me, which blends into the verses of Kabir. Amazing Grace starts with Ik Omkar and goes into a Sufi Katha, and I've done a translation of Amazing Grace into Urdu. Nahi Harwa is blended, is a story, is a song and a story about water, and how water is a common theme in every religion. So how is Nahi Harwa Bhakti? How is it not Sufi, and how is it not gospel? So every piece that I created was guided by intellect, led by intellect actually, but guided by intuition, and it was straight from the heart. The music of the Sufi Gospel Project is about faith, not just in God, but in good, in people, and the goodness in people. But it's also about standing up for equality, equality of all people, acceptance of all people, tolerance, equality of gender, unity, secularism, and individuality. It's about your truth being as valid as mine. And every time we get onto stage, I'm a woman and I have 6 or 7 male musicians who work with me. I have never worked with another woman. And you know what? I get great pleasure out of the fact that I get to tell the men what to do. And it's great. I guide the project. They know that I'm the mother and they can be the uncles. I will take the final call on it. But every time we get onto stage as a collaborative ensemble, and we do collaborate, we realize yet another simple truth, that the music of the Sufi Gospel Project is not just my story. It's your story, it's their story, it's the story of many truths, many thoughts, many voices, but most importantly, it's the acceptance of every voice to be true. And I'd like to leave you with the words of, hang on, I forgot to change this. This slide is a slide I found just before I presented as well, and this to me rings so true, and it's such a beautiful slide. This one as well, Baba Bulle Shah. Like I said, I found resonances everywhere. Baba Bulle Shah, Kabir, all these people were writing the same things, and somewhere along the way we forgot. John Lennon talked of that utopia, a world with no borders. Bulle Shah. People from seemingly disparate, they were from, not just seemingly, they were from different times, different places, but they had the same ideology. So finally, I'm going to leave you with the words of Faiz Ahmad Faiz. This is a song I composed for Independence Day this year, because I just got tired of what was going on in the world. And when Faiz Sahab, who is a Pakistani revolutionary poet, when he wrote this about the oppression of the workers. When I composed it, I just talked of the oppression of voice. I added a verse to it which says, Ek awaaz hai hum, that if we come together we can make a change. Bol ke lab azad hai tere, the translation is there, it says speak, because that is your strongest weapon. Speak out for what you want. If you want to make the change, don't sit there and just crib about it. Get out there, speak out, say you want to be the change, say it out loud, whether it's in your personal life, whether it's for the greater good of society, but use your voice. No one can take that away from you. Your body is still your own, your life, it is still your own. So finally bringing a digital bit into it, because I felt really pressured. With the digital tools at hand these days, I really feel that our voices can be stronger and can be further heard.
So we should use our voices to make a change, and the power of our collective voices to be the change.
बोल के लब आजाद हैं तेरे, बोल ज़बान अब तक तेरी है, तेरा सुतवा जिस्म है तेरा, बोल के जा अब तक तेरी है, बोल के लब आजाद है तेरे, बोल ज़बान अब तक तेरी है, तेरा सुतवा जिस्म है तेरा, बोल के जा अब तक तेरी है, देख के आहंगर की दुकान में तुंद है शोले, सुर्ख है आहन, खुलने लगे कुफलों के दहाने, फैला हर एक जंजीर का दामन, बोल के लब आजाद है तेरे, बोल ज़बान तक तेरी है, एक आवाज़ है हम, बोलो एक आवाज़ है हम, बोलो एक आवाज़ है हम, बोलो एक आवाज़ है हम, एक आवाज़ है हम, बोलो एक आवाज़ है हम। बोलिए थोड़ा वक्त बहुत है, जिस्मो ज़बान की मौत से पहले, बोल के सच जिंदा है अब तक बोल जो कुछ कहना है कह ले, बोल ये थोड़ा वक्त बहुत है, जिस्मो ज़बां की मौत से पहले। बोल के सच जिंदा है अब तक, बोल जो कुछ कहना है कह ले, बोल के लब आजाद है तेरे, बोल ज़बान तक तेरी है, एक आवाज़ है हम, बोलो एक आवाज़ है हम, बोलो एक आवाज़ है हम, बोलो एक आवाज़ है हम, ज़बान तक तेरी एक आवाज़ है हम, बोलो एक आवाज़ है हम, बोलो एक आवाज़ है हम, बोलो एक आवाज़ है हम, एक आवाज़ है हम, एक आवाज़ है हम, बोलो एक आवाज़ है हम, बोलो एक
I just realized I've left without giving you a chance to ask any questions if you weren't too tired and really wanted tea or something. Okay, I saw something. I can't hear you. I think it's not on.
Thanks very much, Sonam. It's really touching, especially your message, although from the outside we are all different, but we all aspire for the same goals, right? So thanks very much for that. So I'm seeing to summarize the day, a big question is coming. So Sonam, to you and maybe Neeti and Sangeeta as well, you have changed your careers many times. And as women, we just don't have a career. We have families to take care of, right? And to do that requires a certain degree of financial freedom, right? And
Yes.
so, and as a woman, I would like to take some time off for my family, maybe for my parents. Maybe I want to reinvent myself. But those things I can't do if I don't have some financial amount set aside. So I would like to know, your lessons. It's good to be entrepreneur, but you cannot be digging into your saving, right? You need to set some foundation aside on which you can fall back on. So I would really want you people to share your lessons, because financial education is one thing we women in India don't get.
Absolutely correct. And I mean, if I told you what I did with finances, you would laugh. There was a time I would get checks from freelance work, I would do voiceovers, and like a good, so I'd obviously seen too many Hindi movies, I was putting the checks under my mattress, until one day my husband found them and he said, "Why are 11 checks under the mattress?" I said, "I don't know, I thought I put them somewhere safe." I had to ring up every one of those people and say, "Hi, I'm an idiot and the check is out of date, could you please revalidate it?" But the fact is, I think you're right. One of the things, and I feel blessed and fortunate, it is important to have financial security to be able to go out and be yourself. I mean, maybe there are women who've done it in spite of not having it. Not only have I had the financial security, but I've had a family from the time I was a little girl, that my father told me that we were not equal to men. I was one of 3 daughters. He said, "You're not equal to men, you're better, and don't you ever forget that." My father was very open to us choosing whatever we wanted to do, whether it was in the liberal arts and not insisting that we do science. I mean, he was great at maths and science, but we were shit. I'll say shit just because the other two ladies said it, since it seems to be the theme word. But the fact of the matter is, I grew up in an environment where it was so liberal. And we were honest with our parents, and somehow money was never given that much importance. So yes, I am lucky to have a husband as well, who's been, when I worked in advertising, he used to keep saying, please quit, please sing, and I'd say, no, they'll hate me, I'm not going to sing. And when I finally did it, I didn't care if they hated me, because I finally did it for me. And I did it for my mother as well. My mother is the reason I sing. But yes, I think that if I didn't have that security, it may have been a harder decision. However, knowing me and the kind of person I am, I have a silly belief about money. I believe if you run after money, it'll run away from you. And I'm happy to not have the money because I don't have very many desires. I don't need a designer bag. In fact, I hate them. I have 5 dogs, so all my money really goes into feeding my dogs. Those were my 5 dogs. If anyone saw the last frame, I sneaked them in. I said, even if the Pakistani lady who gave me her father's poetry gets a little upset that I threw my 5 dogs in. But yes, I think you're right. We are not educated enough. We should be educated enough about money. However, I don't think you should let money stop you from doing what you want to do, because the chances are, if you really believe in it, and I'm a firm believer, I'm very optimistic, if you really believe in it, you will make money through that, just like Neeti did. I mean, she was making a lot of money. I can tell you, creative director salaries are fantastic. She started to get 5,000 rupees, and I'm sure now she's getting paid much more than she did as a creative director. But you have to struggle, and it's okay. Keep the money aside from your last job before you take up your passion. Keep that money aside. But live, because the people who live with passion lead the most glorious lives. They are not free from pain, but they are the richest and most glorious lives. You have a question, sir? Please, can someone give her a mic?
And my take on that is a little different. I have never understood why women say they don't understand finance. That's a whole load of crock and rubbish. And, okay, crock and rubbish. I seem to be starting off a trend.
Did you just say what I thought you said?
So here is the thing. Do you manage your home budgets? You manage paying everybody's salaries, you manage to save up for household goods, you save up for children's education. You're managing finances on a daily basis. Who the hell says you don't understand finance? A. B. Get yourself a good financial consultant. Get it now. And start saving up for the retirement or the holiday or buying a new house or whatever it is that you want, right? Find a good financial consultant, start working with them. The sooner you do it, the easier it is. 3, you have to at some point of time decide what do you really want. Do you want the designer handbag? By the way, I hate designer handbags myself. I can live in pajamas all day if I don't have to go out. I don't like eating out. I can pretty much live on not very much. However, medical costs are hell of a lot in this country,
course.
Right? But plan for that. 4thly, when you're starting off business, you are going to use your savings. Anyone who tells you you're not using your savings is talking a whole load of.
Absolutely. I started
Because it is your business, it is your baby. It's like saying, hey, I'm going to have a baby and go through labor, but it's not my baby. Okay, or I didn't conceive it. Hello?
Much like Neeti, sorry to interrupt, but much like Neeti, when I started singing, I was just happy to get called because I wanted to share the music. I recently got called, and I won't tell you, I recently got called to sing the jingle for this big ad in Bombay, and I said, I'm not coming to Bombay, I'll do it from Delhi. I'm a big fan of Delhi anyway. I believe in Delhi we allow each other the space to think and breathe, and whereas Bombay to me is losing soul, but I was going to charge them 50,000. I got a message from the creative director saying, please charge 3 lakhs, and I was like,
Wow!
I mean, it's okay for me to charge that for a concert, but I thought for a 30-second jingle. But the fact is, from someone who's sung for free, and I'll still sing for free for causes I believe in, charities, things that I believe in, people I believe in. But you'll get paid. And she's right, you have to invest. Whether you make a video, you invest from your own savings. You do that. Sorry, there was one other lady who wanted... You want to ask me a question?
Yeah, I want to add to that.
Please.
I think touchy topic, and it comes around very often, I think, within the SHEROES network. I think every woman needs what I call fuck you money.
Would you ask? I'm sorry. Absolutely.
That's all you need. So I want to share a little anecdote here. When I started SHEROES, I was already running another organization, which was doing fine, but it wasn't sort of huge enough to fund another startup. And at the age with a toddler, the maths didn't add up for anyone. Not even one person told me you should be doing this. But I had no other option. In my head, that was the only. So I did dip into my savings or whatever would be a safety net. And I did call for help. And put together what in my head was the fuck you man. Really. And we got along, the plan worked. Plan worked, and I didn't have to sort of worry too much, or we didn't sink too much. It didn't go into a financial black hole. But it just gave like a lot of safety at the back of my head. If I needed to hospitalize a parent, if I need to fly around to another country to do something, I should be able to do that, right? And I think, and when you pursue passion, interestingly, cost of living just goes down. Because your needs become, you know, so the joke in my house is you need a yoga mat and a computer and you can live with it.
Yeah.
So I think that's so sort of impressive.
It is, absolutely. Sorry, you had a question.
Yes,
Sorry, I think that she was waiting to ask. She's been standing for really long and my legs are getting tired.
I just wanted to add to this, you know, what you said. I also recently quitted my job, 6 months back, and from quite a bit of salary, come to a thing where I'm starting my own agency and all that. You know, I think the basic shift which needs to happen is that you have to overcome the sense of insecurity which you have towards finances. That's an internal shift one needs to make. And once you do that and you know that you're passionate about doing things and finding and rediscovering yourself, I think it's all about an internal shift which I feel one needs to make where finances are concerned. And life opens up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, you...
Yeah, I'm glad that we're having all this discussion about passion, because I didn't have a question, just an observation. That I came to the SHEROES Summit thinking of career progression, because the title said Women Make Digital India. What I'm going back with is soul progression, because I've been sitting here for the last 1 hour and shaking my head vigorously. And many of these, I must admit, are stories that I'm not hearing for the first time. I recently authored a book which spoke of 12 women who gave up their corporate careers to follow their passion, and 3 of these women, Sairi, Neeti and Sonam, are on the book.
I'm so old now, I can't even see you. It's too high. How are you?
See the lights, that's all right. But thank you so much for this jug of inspiration. Thanks.
Thank you, Ritu. Is there anyone with any questions? Yes, you have a question.
I want to come back to the same theme. So we've been talking about this for the last entire day, and we've got this platform. What we forget is that our mothers and our grandmothers and our great-grandmothers have been doing this quiet revolution for us for the last 100 odd years at the very least.
Absolutely.
We've got Mahila Gram Udyog, Lijjat Papad, okay? Where did that come from? 4 women who did not have a penny to call their own. And that hunger to feed yourself, that's where the best entrepreneurship has ever come from, especially for women. So when and I speak as an entrepreneur myself who's gone from being somebody who gets paid to somebody who is paid. And that is the biggest, that punch to your stomach every month, when it's no longer just your bank balance that you need to be worried about, but the fact that somebody else looks up to you to pay them at the end of each month is what drives you. So that fear factor totally flips around. So let's, put it out there for our mothers and our grandmothers who've done this for so long, that we can all sit here today and have this conversation.
Sonam, in spite of all the